What is up, YouTube? As you can see on the thumbnail, this is going to be a video going over Rhianna and Luciella's kit, as they have been announced as of today on May 27, 2026 at the time of recording. A lot of things to be mindful of, and I've kind of put together a lot of the things you want to take away from this video is the synergies, the counters, and overall kind of build path and what you can kind of visualize on your own account when you're planning on pulling for this character. And if you guys do enjoy this breakdown, please drop a like and comment for the algorithm, subscribe if you're not already, and let's get right into it. So obviously, apart from the massive mitts that they both carry and this amazing artwork, one of the reasons why Rhianna and Luciella are going to be really strong is because of her base speed, right? So some of the hardest players to play against in RTA especially, or even in Guild Wars, are people who are really fast, right? And so when you are, especially maybe like a standard player or a tank down player, or maybe you're someone that only has one really fast set of gear, Rhianna and Luciella might arguably be a must pull for you. Now, hopefully you can make that decision at the end of this video after everything you've heard, but just the fact that she has 132 base speed, and if you have enough slates to triple S her, which we've been getting quite a few slates lately, I think, especially from like the web events and stuff like that, you're going to be able to get triple S, so you can get her up to 53% crit rate, and that's going to make it really easy to build her. All you're going to need to have is maybe like a high crit chance boot, 25 to 30% crit, and then have a few, extra little, critical hit chance subs on your weapons and other pieces of gear. So getting to 100% crit definitely is not going to be difficult at all. Now, obviously, it's quite early to say. We don't know her damage numbers. We don't know the multipliers. We don't know like how much speed scaling she gets in her damage and how much like attack scaling she gets. But regardless, I think even if we find out the numbers, we're still going to want to have her at like the highest speed possible, because at 132, if you have a good top speed, you're going to be able to outspeed units like Rhianna and any other openers that are very prevalent in the meta right now, and just kind of overwhelm people, right? Now, jumping over into the skills, I want to point out her S2 has, you always start off as Rhianna, right? So the pair of the twins, you're always going to start off as the girl Rhianna and not Luciella. So the S2 is going to dispel 2 buffs with Bind and Death Break, right? Granting an extra turn. So what does this mean, right? The Soul Burn ignores the ER for the full strip and the Bind and Death Break. So this is going to be one of the premier counters versus Perfumer Biblis, because Biblis, her passive is contingent on her basically like cleansing and then full healing your team and whatever, right? But if there's Bind, you're actually shutting her down from actually activating. So if you do bind Biblis, you proc below 50%, her passive cannot proc, and that way you're setting up defense break as well to get a kill on her. So I think Smilegate definitely had this in mind for a character of her caliber to not directly counter Biblis, but at least have a really good win condition versus her for that bind. The death break obviously is just like sprinkling on top, right? And obviously you're going to be getting increased damage dealt. But moving over into her S3 really quickly, we're going to be seeing that they will launch a coordinated attack, and it will also again have a dispel of 2 buffs from all enemies before inflicting fear for 1 turn, ignoring damage share. So units like Scales, obviously you're going to be able to bypass that as well, which I think Smilegate really, when they designed this character, they had a lot to consider, which is like, how do we stop the current meta, right? How do we stop the Biblises? How do we stop the Scales, right? Ivana, we already know, is kind of countering DN, but this obviously bypassing Scales is very nice. Not only does it bypass Scales, though, it's also going to bypass Estelle or just any mitigation in general, right? So that's something to be mindful of. Now, this is completely unconfirmed, but according to people in the community, particularly my chat, they did say that roughly you're going to be getting about 100% effectiveness for if you're saying you're on like the top speed build, right? Now, I don't really know if that is like 100% correct, but I'm not really a numbers guy. I can't even do 35 plus 18. I thought that shit was 51, low key. So I'm kind of an idiot. So I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a fake Asian, okay? But the most important thing to really point out as well, apart from the fear and the strips and the damage share, is increased evasion by 70%. Now, this buff, it is a unique effect. So it's not something that you can actually strip with a unit, say like Nodos, where if he takes you into the Sex Dungeon, right, he can take away Giros, Spirit Lord Blessing from Ruel, Baronka's passive. All of those things, they can get stripped because they're blue buffs. This one is going to be a unique effect, so Nodos cannot strip that. So that's just something I do want to point out really quickly before we move on. Now, moving over into the S1. This is going to have erosion, and I think this is the first debuff effect that's being introduced now, right? Where erosion is going to cause you to lose 5% of lost health on that character, but it's going to be amplified by double, so it's 10% of lost health. So any HP scalers will take a lot of damage, right? Units like Yulha, units like Estelle, units like Nodos, units like Baronka now at like 30k HP builds. This erosion is going to be very, very deadly and just be a pest to kind of deal with. So obviously, like throughout this video, we've already reiterated it, but she's going to be a great anti-cleave option because you're able to speed contest units like Renak or just any openers like Amid, TML, Ran, right? Any units that are very prevalent in the meta right now, or even like in the future, right? Are we going to see units that are even faster than this? I don't think so. Maybe like a ranger that's Sagittarius, maybe. But for the most part, you're going to be able to have her as an anti-cleave option for speed contesting. Easy to build because you get 53% crit chance from triple S imprints if you have the slates. You also get great survivability from 70% evasion plus 20% evasion from any artifact like Shepherd of the Hollow or just anything else. Any other evasion artifact, right? You're basically 90% evasion, and we already know how problematic it is when there's a unit that has 90% evasion, right? We look at units like Arbiter Viltrid, right? Post buff, like he's just fucking tearing through the meta and just being a complete nuisance and is really, really hard to kill, right? Also cycles very fast, which grants you a lot of tempo depending on like the units that you're pairing alongside her. And then obviously it benefits from Fervor Set, but it is going to require a high speed substat. So the way that you would maybe try to implement Fervor Set is you farm the new Otherworldly Breach that comes out when it includes the Fervor Set. But most likely the build is going to be Fervor Boot, and then one like top speed Fervor piece, which allows you to kind of like get to that threshold where you're like, you know, really, really high top speed to just go for the speed contest as well. And obviously I covered that it does counter Perfumer Biblis, which is one of the most notable units I would say that's dominated the meta ever since she's been come out. Now let's look at synergies, right? Units like Saria is going to be very good. And the reason for that is because you get that extra turn, and then you proc your passive, and then slam, right? You can kill with otherworldly machinery and stuff like that. You look at units like Commander Pavel, right? If you're running on a crit build, which you're most likely going to, right? You can get a defense break with S2 Soul Burn into a Caval S2. That's pretty much a guaranteed dead unit. And then you can S3, which means Caval kills 3 units, right? So similarly to units like Firelytica, right? Firelytica, same concept. Crit Payra, same concept, right? If there's an extra turn, you're going to want to try to benefit by abusing Caval in that sense. Which is the Mir Tenebria on Umbral Keystone, obviously you're taking 2 turns, so it's very similar to also Renak, same. Tactical Archetype Coley and Vildred are basically speed contests, but Coley is going to be exceptionally good because obviously you're going to be able to get that extra speed, but also like land all the frostbites and all the other pesty debuffs and stuns and stuff like that. Requiem Rhianna ideally is only to counter Emilocades, but it does provide to give you that book that you're really going to want to rely on so that you have that Soul Burn S2 for the bind and the death break. Araminta, again, same concept, right? Any book, right? ML Araminta, Requiem Rhianna, MLDN, all book options, which is going to help her Soul Burn S2 to guarantee that strip, bind, and death break, right? And ML Araminta obviously is going to be pretty good. Just be mindful of the resistance warfare, where she might not excel that well. MLDN, obviously, even though Ivana has been a nuisance to her, but nonetheless, MLDN will be able to come out on a 4-5 to pair alongside her so that you can get the Soul Burn S2, the Strip, the Seal, the Slam, all that stuff. And then Salome scales are going to be very good as well. And then P-Flan, last but not least, P-Flan will not be good against Baronka Biblis, but against everybody else, it's pretty good. Now let's look at counters, right? Now counters, Moon Bunny Dominion, we're gonna have to see how the testing actually works. Like, is it going to proc the skill effect null, skill null, and everything the way that we're kind of expecting it to? And if it does, then it's for sure going to counter, right? Same how it counters Salome in some sense, same how it counters Renak in some sense, same how it counters Conquer Lilius in that sense as well, right? Harsetti, obviously, to stop any speed. Zeo, same concept, right? And some people were saying, oh, but Vic, you cannot actually Zeo S3 into Rhianna and Luciella. You're correct, but obviously Zeo can bring alongside like Successor Teiyu, you can bring MLDN, you can bring so many different options where it now enables you to kill the rest of the units with the Rhianna and Luciella, right? What if someone drafts RNL and they, you know, have a bunch of squishy units, right? You're not going to need a whole lot of setup, right? You just need to bring a bridge with Zeo and just kill them, right? Dragon King Shroon, because there's the fear on S3, obviously, so similarly to how you might draft Dragon King Shroon if you lack the option of School Nurse Yulha against the Fire Sigrid matchup. And on that note, I would actually move Schooner's Yoha up here as well, because we just mentioned that, right? Fire Sacred's also going to be pretty good too, because you can buff stack if you have immunity, barrier, and evasion buff. So because it only strips 2 buffs on S3, you're going to be able to basically just hold your place in line with Sigrid on that immunity, so that she could potentially go for that S3 and try to take tempo back, right? So that's something to be mindful of. If you don't have immunity on your Sigrid, I highly recommend you do put that on at ASAP. Benimaru is kind of keep that shit hidden tier. Free Rin is fucking insane, obviously, because yeah, you can get feared on Free Rin, but like, if you have some way of like stopping it with the ER, like a Christie, or you know, just like Res Warfare with like Arya, or just like anyway, right? Or you have like Yenya. Free Rin still is just really strong, so there's no fixed damage you can really bring alongside RNL, so Free Rin will no matter what be an issue. ML Arya with Res Warfare to resist. ML Kayron with for fixed damage versus the evasion, not stealth, but the evasion factor, right? ML Kayron with Pursuit set does 18k fixed damage even through evasion, so you can guarantee kill RNL. And because RNL is going to be cycling so many turns, MLK will actually be very good in that sense to just like go for the S3 slam and then just wipe the board, right? Similarly to how you would bring Kayron versus Lone Wolf Payra, right? Very similar in that sense. Satsuka, obviously defense warfare. Barunka to hit the front. DDR can be pretty good as a Zeo bridge, mainly only if you're playing Zeo, right? If you're looking to counter her and you want to apply the sleep, Zeo S1 or just Zeo with highest attack, proc Queen Whistle, DDR can just like S3, S2, take away the evasion, and then your team can play, right? So DDR is just primarily just alongside Zeo, not as a standalone, right? Inheritor or Miki can be pretty good, but just be mindful that you're technically going a Miki versus 100% effectiveness with a fear. So could be kind of sus, and they're taking a lot of turns to generate souls, which can then like soul burn S2 you later on in the match. So not a really great option, I would say. You're really trying to get bailed out in a 1v9, but it still might work in some sense, right? Dilibet does rely on you having an entire team getting debuffs, so if you have like G-Ross or Bois or high-res units, Dilibet might not work, right? But if you have units that are going to get tagged completely, then of course it's going to work. G-Ross is an anti-debuff anchor. Tori similar in that sense where you have an anti-debuff anchor. And last but not least, Fenris and Lionheart Sturmia are going to be very good as well because they have that extra attack follow-up that procs their passives, which can allow you to maybe turn the tides, right? Lionheart can be on offense warfare. Fenris obviously on guiding light. You have that survivability so that you can't be targeted. The only thing I would be mindful of is that you do need to like survive all of the incoming damage first. So similar to like Reenact, right? And you have like Reenact, Holy, and you have Lionheart. If they just like S2, S3 you and you just like die, like Lionheart's not gonna do shit. So you have to make sure that you're able to actually tank the hits, otherwise it's not really gonna work, right? But anyways, hopefully that gives you guys an idea of the units that you guys can prepare or maybe like polish up on some of the builds in preparation for Rhianna and Luciella if you're trying to pull her, or if you're planning on fighting against her. I don't know if she's gonna be allowed towards the end of the RTA season. I really hope not, but if it is, be ready because that's gonna be really fucking annoying. And if you're a Guild War player, this is gonna be kind of an annoying unit to deal with as well, in my opinion. Anyways, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments what you guys think about Rhianna and Luciella, and if you'll be pulling for her or not. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye!